Hello, and welcome to another podcast episode. I'm sure we're just playing randomly in your feed, where it's like sequential, and now it's like, what's up next? And then this time it's us! That's absurd. Please elaborate is the show that the algorithm has selected for you to be next. And this is a show, hopefully you enjoy, where we take questions from listeners. Hopefully they're silly and weird. Hopefully they'd make Jim from The Office do one of his classic looks to camera after he heard it.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to do it right there, Trace. But
this is an audio medium. I'm not going to continue my visual gags that we were doing before we started taping.
Right. They're not privy to that.
We'll put it on social.
Yeah. Give me one good Jim right now.
Okay, hang on. Ready? Talk.
That was a good Jim, audience. You couldn't see it, but I think you could feel it.
I think
I'm one of the two Jims here today. I'm Julian Huguet.
And I'm the other Jim. Or maybe I'm the Pam. I feel like I'm the Pam in this relationship.
Aww. Do we have a
good?
long will they or won't they type romance?
Look, I think if you ask the audience, they would agree that we have a long will they or won't they type romance. You know what? I haven't read the forums, but I bet you we have.
That's the chatter.
I'm Trace Dominguez, also science communicator. And again, send us your questions so that we can answer them. But we like answering silly questions. It helps us learn new things. And, we hope that you learn something new too.
All right. So with that, Pam number 1. Let's get started. What's your question this week, Trace?
This week, my question comes from Art, who is a repeat asker, but I didn't know that when I picked it because I thought this is just weird and silly, and I needed one, and it was late at night, and so I picked this one. How many people would it take to flip an average aircraft carrier?
Oh!
Yeah, I thought this is weird. So Art elaborated, in the famous documentary Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, the mighty pirates flipped the Black Pearl to leave Davy Jones's locker by running from one side to the other until up is down. Up is down. Is it really possible to flip a ship like this, and how many people would it take to flip an average aircraft carrier?
The first place my mind goes is, what is an average aircraft carrier?
Yo, I have that in here. Yes, we're going to figure that out.
That's a surprisingly hard question, I think, for people who aren't in the know about aircraft carriers.
Yeah, yes, it's true. Because is it average in current commission, or is it average since invention of? Is it
which
can
Navy?
Mean a lot of things.
The U.S. Navy average aircraft carrier, very different from other Navy's aircraft carriers.
We're going to get there. Don't you worry, Julian.
Okay.
And I don't mention airplanes at all, audience.
But
Not
it's an
even
aircraft
once.
Carrier. That's
Airplanes.
where they live.
Airplanes. Not even once.
I hate you. This is horrible for me.
I'm on Team Dare, which is don't airplane right ever.
Reference was right there, but yeah, totally.
Okay, so I started my notes on this with, what radicalized you? And I said, I wanted to tell a quick story. I love water. I love boats. I've always wanted to learn to sail. And so I took small boat sailing and scouts. And in college at Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo, Michigan, I joined the sailing club. The sailing club was sanctioned by the school. They were like, oh yeah, you can meet on school grounds and use school classroom to come and meet and stuff. It was official, but it was hundreds of dollars a semester to be in the sailing club. And I was making $6 an hour selling tickets at sporting events and paying my way through school in part. So sailing not in the cards for me, but that's what radicalized me.
Oh, okay.
Well, the beginning of it was just these rich kids and their sailboats. Anyway, sailing was not in the cards for me.
There's two types of people, the haves and the have-yachts.
I hate you. I do have a bit of a curse. It was probably better that I don't do that. I not the Curse of the Black Pearl. That's the first movie. But I do have a bit of a curse. I had a boat growing up and it exploded. And then another time I was on it, I put out the fire. It was fine. And then another time I was on a sailing catamaran and the wind died in the middle of the lake and the canvas that the catamaran that we're standing on started to rip. So that was great. And then another time I was on the dock because we had completely repaired the boat, and the dock collapsed. And then another time I was on the boat after we'd repaired the boat and the dock, and I was using the boat And then we had a bunch of seaweed, and so I went to throttle up to get through the seaweed, and then went to throttle back, but the throttle didn't work, so I crashed into the shore. So I kind of have a curse with boats.
What sea hag did you offend? What did you do?
I don't know. But maybe I shouldn't have been in the sailing team. Maybe this was the universe trying to save my life. I don't know. But let's watch the scene from the Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End in question, just to remind us of what this moment in the movie / documentary is.
Right. There they are on the boat deck, and they're running back and forth as the cannons, which are not chained down apparently, go from side to side.
Yeah, they cut them loose earlier in the scene.
Yeah. They make it all the way to one side. Oh, yep, guy gets crushed by cannon.
Long story short, it flips over. Okay? So they run back and forth across the deck from railing to railing on this black pearl, and by running back and forth, the mass of their bodies starts to rock the ship left to right. And then over those oscillations, they are running essentially uphill each time, so their mass is moving to the high side to push the ship back down and increase the oscillation like a swing at a swing set until it reaches a point of tipping and the whole ship flips over and they can leave Davy Jones' locker. This is nuts, right? This is kind of crazy. Do you think this is magic? Do you think this is movie magic? Or do you think that a dedicated group of people could actually flip a ship this way?
I think given enough people on a boat of a certain size, yeah, why not, right? If you can physically make the timing of the oscillations right so that you add to it each time, kind of like when, you're on a swing set and you time like the movement of your legs, you'll go higher. But if you mistime it, you'll kill that.
Yeah, you'll slow yourself down.
Change in momentum. Yeah. Well, I don't see why it shouldn't be possible.
Yeah, I agree. However, I was trying to figure out if anyone has ever tried to do this and really try to understand what the Black Pearl is. It's not just a keel and a hull and deck and sails. That's what a ship is. Not what I need to know what the Black Pearl is. What the Black Pearl is. Freedom. It doesn't really work. You can't tip freedom over. It's not,
wow,
that's not a thing.
Put that on an American flag.
You can't tip
freedom. You can't tip freedom over.
That seems like an anti-server, when people who work in restaurants.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I tipped you by being in America, where you've got freedom. That's your tip.
Oh, no. Okay, so do you know what kind of ship the Black Pearl is, Julian?
It's a wooden one.
True.
Yeah.
Accurate.
I don't know. Yeah. There's a bunch of ship names, and I've never really bothered to learn the distinction. A schooner.
Ooh, nice choice. No, it's bigger than a schooner.
A galleon. Is it a galleon?
Wow.
Yeah.
Second guess and you nailed it.
Honestly, galleon was my first because pirates would steal galleons that were full of gold, right? Mm-hmm. And then they'd be like, this is my new ship. And then they'd just cover it in cannons, right?
Yeah.
That was the old pirate MO.
Yeah, that is the pirate MO. In the Pirates of the Caribbean universe, it's a former Dutch East India Company ship. I found a whole lot of Reddit nerds arguing about it, and let me tell you, they are clear it is not a frigate, unless you are on Team Frigate, in which case they are angry that you are saying it's not a frigate. And then the people who are like, it's a galleon, get really mad when you say it's a frigate. So don't say it's a frigate.
Are ship nerds intense? Are people who know specific types of ships, much like people who know specific types of trains or specific types of airplanes, are they intense people?
I have a feeling anyone who knows a lot about a specific mode of transportation is pretty intense.
Has strong opinions.
Yeah, they're pretty intense people. So it's an East Indiaman galleon, which is a real designation of ship outside of the universe. So the specific designation applies to ships that were traveling between Europe and the East Indies. And the Black Pearl is a modified version of that for the film. The scale is a little different and such. But it's one of actually the most numerous ships. This type of ship is one of the most numerous ships built between the 16th and 19th centuries because it was excellent at moving a significant amount of cargo per its size and weight.
Yeah, got to extract extract that wealth from the colonies, you know?
That's exactly right. And it wasn't just the English, it was also the Dutch and the Spanish and all of basically any of these Western European seafaring nations were building these types of ships. So there are some very famous ones, like the pirate ship Revenge was a galleon. So it's fairly large, has lots of cargo space. They're not very speedy. They're reasonably fast for their size, but they're not like a fast ship. One might call it the 1999 Toyota Corolla of ships. One might.
I think it's more of like a minivan kind of.
So like the 1999 Toyota Highlander of ships.
Yeah, something like that. I definitely think, you know, not too fast, made for a lot of cargo, hauling it back and forth, hauling all your pirates to soccer practice.
Got it. So it's the Honda Odyssey.
Yeah.
Of ships. That's great. Okay, so some stats about the galleon. They're coming in different sizes, of course, like anything, but it's around 50 meters long, and for Americans, a meter is like a yard. It's okay, don't worry about it. And it's armed with 25 to 30 cannons. They're usually shorter range. They won't shoot like a ship very far away. They usually shoot things closer up to try and keep, you know, again, pirates, but also for traders and merchants. They're not like warships. They're just trying to keep you at bay. They're not trying to like attack you necessarily. A pirate would take over the ship and probably put more long range cannon to be able to attack something further away and catch up to it. And by the way, when I was working at Fort Mackinac, we would fire an 1841 model smoothbore field artillery, and field just meant that the carriage it was on, so it could be the same cannon you would find on a ship, and you could hit a target a half mile away or about a kilometer away. So pretty good. There's typically 150 to 300 crew. You could max out at 300, but that would be pretty nuts. Like you're packing them in at that point. So about 150 crew on a ship like this. And it had a length to beam ratio of 3-to-1, which we all know what that means.
Oh, yeah, totes.
So
it's 3 times longer than it is wide. That's it, right?
Yeah, but I think there are a bunch of ship words that we're not good at. So I did, Kyle, can you pull up the song, The Sailor's Hornpipe, please? I wrote a shanty for you all. Here we go. When you're on a ship, the port is left, and when you're off a ship, you're in the sea. But I never thought you'd need to know the length of beam ratio unless you're doing a podcast in the future. Now the beam is width and the draft is depth underwater that your ship doth rest. But the most really important little thing about sailing is the flags atop the mast are blowing forwardly. This'll be the last stanza of my shanty extravaganza. Note the keel is the bottom ridge running fore and aft. But the thing that's real confusing about our galleon's little musing is displacement really means mast. Just don't be daft.
That is the most I've learned about a ship from a song, I think, in my whole life.
Thank you. I was pretty proud of that.
That's nice. Good job.
Displacement just means mass.
Yeah, it's how much water you're displacing.
Yeah. Very Archimedean.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Eureka-esque.
That's the buoyant force pushing you back up.
Right. The flags are going to point forward. Anytime you see a mast with a flag pointing backward, that is a computer-animated ship that they didn't know what the heck they were doing.
It's a liar
because
ship.
The ship is riding on the wind. It would be like if there were a flag on an airplane going forward. It wouldn't make sense because it's pushing through the wind in that case, but it's not in a ship that's going with the wind. Length to beam ratio, again, is the width to the length. And then the draft of a ship is the depth underwater that your ship doth rest. I needed it to end in
Yeah, did you ever hear where the port and starboard terms come from?
What I have heard is port out, starboard home, and posh on something. You know, there's like a backronym to it. What do you?
It started because on old ships you would have the steerboard on the right hand side where you would use your right hand.
Yeah, like the rudder, but it's a steerboard.
Yeah, and then you would dock on the left to the port because then the steerboard was farther from the port and you could easily
turn
maneuver
better.
And then steerboard slowly morphed into starboard over time. But yeah, it's from where the literal board you would use to steer used to be placed.
That's cool. I didn't know that. Look at that. Learning so much ship stuff today.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't have it in shanty form for you.
You could. You now know the sailor's hornpipe. You could do it.
I do. And there's the Wellerman song that we all learned during COVID.
That
was classic.
I avoided the sea shanty thing because I used to play them all the time.
Sea shanty talk? That was a good time. That got me through some dark days of early COVID. It was nice.
Yeah. It was all Animal Crossing for me, bro. So if I needed a sea shanty, I would go visit the turtle captain. Anyway, so yeah, galleon is 3-to-1 length to width, and displacement of a galleon is going to vary, but let's just keep it at 1,000 tonnes, metric tons, about 1,100 short tons. So how do you flip a 1,000-ton, metric ton, floating house, which, just to put it in perspective, this is equivalent to 6.5 1,600 square foot, 150 square meter houses. 2 Christ the Redeemer statues in Rio de Janeiro, 100 T-Rexes, 150 elephants, or 600 Ford Tauruses, or I guess we could probably say Toyota Corollas.
Yeah. So you put 600 Toyota Corollas on the deck and you drive them back and forth.
Really
fast. You can even fit 600 Corollas on a deck that size.
That is an issue.
You do not have that much room.
Excellent. Art. I want you to know that nerds are fantastic. And Julian, I mean, you already know that. But I found this incredible paper from Carl E. Mungen and John D. Emery of the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. Here's the title of the paper, quote, "Rolling the Black Pearl, Analyzing the Physics of a Movie Clip."
Oh!
Now, actually, I left a word out of the title because I read it wrong every time because I think it actually makes more sense. The actual title is Rolling the Black Pearl Over, Analyzing the Physics of a Movie Clip. But I think the colon should have been one word up. It should be Rolling the Black Pearl, Over Analyzing the Physics of a Movie Clip.
Punctuation is important. It changes meaning.
It really is. Here's a quote from the paper. "Although a full-scale version of the Black Pearl was constructed for the second and third movies in the Pirates of the Caribbean series, it is nevertheless a model and not a true tall ship. We therefore decided it would be more realistic to base the analysis on the characteristics of an authentic 17th century Spanish galleon having the same general dimensions and appearance as the Black Pearl, namely the San Juan Bautista, which is a real ship that really exists." This is the best kind of nerdery when they're like, you're talking to a doctor who watches ER or The Pit or something, and you're just like, okay, you know though, right? And they're like, yeah, it's the San Juan Bautista. Of course,
yeah.
It's a galleon. We know what it is.
Going into my repertoire of galleon names that I know, I think the best analog is definitely the San Juan Bautista. Yeah, all right. We're dealing with real naval nerds.
Yeah. The SJB is 508,000 kilograms. It's 55 meters long. Again, close. Just pretend it's yards, guys. Beam at the widest, 11.3 meters. The draft, which, as you may recall from our sea shanty earlier, is the depth underwater of the ship. So how much is under the water line is about 3.8 meters. So they took in this paper inventory of the ship and all of the cargo, potential cannon, the masses, estimated masses for what they counted in the scene in the documentary film, 16 crew in the original scene. Plus there were crew under the deck and stuff, but I don't think they counted them. Seriously, this paper's fantastic. And it was designed specifically to be like, hey, we are going to simplify the physics so that we can talk to students about this, because it's actually a really excellent example of kind of ship design. If you imagine a cross section of the ship, like if you're looking at, I don't know, like a coffee cup and you cut it in half so you can see the inside of the cup.
Right.
Like imagine the ship like that, right? So there's the top deck, which is at the very top with the railings that they're running back and forth on. Then there's the cannon deck, which is just down below that. And then about there is actually what many people think the center of gravity of a ship is lower. Nope, it's way up here with the cannon deck. Then there's a point of flotation, which is where the water line, where the draft starts, and then the rest of the ship is below the water. And the center of buoyancy is below the water line. It doesn't mirror the center of gravity mathematically, but if you think of it as a diagram and you were drawing it out, you could just say like, okay, here's where the water meets the ship. Put an inch above and an inch below, like in your mind. That's where the center of gravity is and the center of buoyancy are. So Mungen and Emery used a moment of inertia from a solid cylinder, not a half cylinder. You would think it would be a half cylinder because it's a ship. But they said, well, the masts are very long and very heavy and they have sails on them. So we should use a full cylinder that might give you a more accurate, mathematical calculation.
Sure.
And then they go on in the paper to calculate the period of rotation, masses involved, the moment arm of the net torque as a function of the heeling angle. And they found this is totally possible, and 16 crew with cannon could do this. If they loose the cannon
16
and move them back and forth with just 16 people doing this, if they did it perfectly. And like you said, they didn't go out of sync with the wave that they're trying to build, if they could do it perfectly, then, quote, the preceding analysis suggests that the physics in this movie clip is realistically portrayed, making it a good case study for students. Rolling is apparently common for galleons, such as the Black Pearl, as those ships are known to be unstable because of their narrow beam, short keel, and top heaviness. Cool, right?
Yeah. I remember I went to Boston years ago. This is a total tangent. But, like, a lot of the roadways and stuff that are old brick in New England were ballast that ships coming over from Europe would be loaded up with, so they would sit lower in the water and be more stable. And then when they got to the New World, they'd unload all that stone and then take on cargo that they could take back, and the locals were like, what the hell are we going to do with all this stone? And then they turned it into roads. You know, that's why you need ballast in a ship like this. And so if it's the less loaded it is, the more easy it's going to be to tip over. So
yes,
I'm still shocked though, assuming like most best case scenario for this, that it's still just 16 people.
I also agreed. It wasn't just the people were the ones initiating and maintaining the wave, you know, the like back and forth to increase the tip. However, without the cannon and like the other masses in the cannon deck, their calculations said essentially they couldn't have done it with just 16 people. It was essential. Apparently Barbossa, again, smarter than the other crew, because he was like went down underneath in the movie to tell them to loose the cannon. So they loosed the cannon, and that increased the mass that's moving back and forth.
Makes sense.
With the ship.
Cannons are quite heavy.
It's quite heavy, and it is going to go like against the wall of the ship and like put force against it and then go back and do the same thing. So as long as they can keep it going and, like you said, do it well, they should be able to tip over a galleon. Now, a galleon and an aircraft carrier are not the same thing. So they are both ships.
Ships changed a little bit in the intervening like 400 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Both in water.
They are both in water. They float. That's about it.
There you go.
So let's talk a little bit about why this may not work with an aircraft carrier. And I have figured out, I think, how you could do it with an aircraft carrier in a somewhat satisfying way. So there are 51 aircraft carriers currently operating in the world that we know of. I mean, it's not like they're easy to hide, but 22 of those are for airplanes. 29 only do helicopters. So they're smaller. There are 15 different navies operating these aircraft carriers. Any guesses how many of the aircraft carriers are from the United States?
12.
It is the most.
12.
Man.
It's 12.
You just know.
I just know that. I just know that the U.S. Navy's policy is to have 12 carriers act in active service. That's like a law in Congress that I happen to know. Yeah.
But it has 11.
Well, we're building one. Now I'm Googling it.
That's great.
Anyway, we have some official policy. Yeah, I guess it is 11. Crap, I was one up.
This is why we double check. Even when we think we know, we always double check.
But we do have a law that says, like, we have to have this many carriers.
Oh, yeah, I believe it.
And ours are special big boy carriers that are not like anywhere else in the world.
They are absolutely intensely massive in comparison to anyone else. So of the 11 that we have, sorry, Julian, 10 of them are Nimitz-class super carriers. The next largest aircraft carrier in the world after the Nimitz-class is 60% smaller. The Nimitz-class can carry 75 aircraft, including FAE-18s. Those are different designations, FA, FE. But also transport ships, helicopters, and all sorts of others. Everyone else together also have 11 aircraft carriers. China has 3, India, UK, Italy each have 2, and France and Russia each have 1.
The Russian one, by the way, is kind of an online joke. It's kind of a horrible piece of crap.
Yeah, seems like that's a lot of the Russian system.
Yeah, the Russian Navy has a long, illustrious history of being terrible. And the Russian Navy's aircraft carrier, the Kuznetsov, is like this thing that runs on like junk coal, like sludge. So it has like a huge black plume of smoke that you can see from miles and miles away. And it's always breaking down and needs to be towed everywhere with tugboats. And yeah, but it's kind of just there so Russia can be like, look, we have aircraft carriers.
We have one.
We are are also superpowered. But then technically it's got to be like a missile boat too, because of international laws about who's allowed to have aircraft carriers. It's weird. It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
Admiral Kuznetsov, if you're a military nerd and you want a good laugh, just read up on the Admiral Kuznetsov. It's quite something.
What? Honestly, what a great band name.
Admiral Kuznetsov.
Admiral Kuznetsov for like a terrible band. Like you're purposefully bad, but also like you're bad enough that it's like entertaining. I don't know. Admiral Kuznetsov would be a great band. But it'd have to be spelled like K-O-O-Z, like Kuznetsov.
Kuznetsov.
Okay, if the Nimitz class, if we're thinking airplanes, which I think most people think airplanes when they think aircraft carriers, of the 22, 10 of them are Nimitz class, which would skew the average. The Nimitz class, because the people, in case you're not a Navy nerd, they run on 2 nuclear reactors. They're 333 meters long, just under 1,100 feet. Their beam, so their width, is 41 meters. Their displacement is 88,000 metric tons, 97,000 short tons. That's 97 black pearls all together in one massive ship.
That's big. That's
big.
Pretty big. But when you've got to land a whole, not just like an airplane, but like a jet, like a really fast moving jet, you need like kind of a big surface for it.
One might say you want to land and or take off 75 jets and be able to hold on to them when you're not flying them around.
Yeah.
So they have an elevator, they can move the aircraft up to the flight deck, and they keep a few on the flight deck, but a lot of them are stored inside the ship. It's just, the thing is a floating city, for sure. It's incredible. So I did not use the Nimitz because I didn't think that would be fair to the world of aircraft carriers, and also it's just so big that the numbers would be ridiculous. So let's start with the smallest aircraft carrier in the world, the Thai Royal Navy's Chakri Naruabet. The Chakri Naruabet, or the Chakri Naruabet. I don't know what to call it. I don't know how to shorten it. Naruabet. The displacement of that one is only 11,670 metric tons. So it is much smaller.
How many black pearls is that?
11.
How many minute bowls is that?
I don't know how many minute bowls it is.
What's the displacement of a minute bowl?
That one I'd need to look up.
11 black pearls. Gotcha.
It's 11. Yeah, about 11 black pearls. So it's significantly less. And if you use the Mungan-Embry model and you apply it to an aircraft carrier, galleon's length to width, their beam, to keel ratio is 3-to-1. So they have they got a small dick, as they say. Small dick.
Right.
Naruabet is 22.5 beam at the waterline with a deck of 27.5. So it's got a little bit wider deck because it's an aircraft carrier, so the deck is a little wide. But it's still not that much of a ratio. But something that galleons do not have, that aircraft carriers do have by design, is a much deeper draft. Much deeper. Yeah. They go much further under the waterline than even you think they do when you picture one. They have that bulbous thing at the bow to reduce friction with the water. They've got bilge keels, which are fins running along the sides, which reduce rolling. They've got tanks inside of the ship, anti-roll tanks, which use baffles to trap water in the higher parts of the ship to limit the rolling of the ship. All of this to help maintain stability because, again, we're taking off aircraft on it. We want it to not be rolling back and forth because that could break the aircraft you're trying to land.
Yeah.
Not to mention they both have ballast. So as Julian mentioned, the weight at the bottom, which also prevents rolling and helps you, ride lower in the water. When 75 aircrafts are no longer on board, that's a lot of mass. So they have to be able to maintain ballast by pumping water in and out of the ship. So much cool technology, but all of that makes it much harder to roll because they specifically designed them to not roll.
Yeah, there's that. There's also the fact that the aircraft carrier is like the centerpiece of the modern Navy, right?
Yeah.
Like we discovered in the Second World War, that was the turning point from like, oh, big cannons are the thing too. Actually, these airplanes are pretty dangerous. Actually, a lot more dangerous than a big old gun, right? Like a big naval gun can hurl a shell like 16 miles, something on that order. But a modern aircraft can travel hundreds of miles, and stay airborne on patrol. And they're just so much more dangerous now, aircraft carriers. And there's such a big investment for a Navy that making sure that it doesn't roll over in a storm or something.
It's like
is
job
kind
one.
of
That's
important.
like job. That's kind of
we're not
the most
sink
important
all
thing.
this money, and it's like top heavy. Oops.
Yeah, because they do look very top heavy. When you watch them, you see videos of them on the water. Not only is it hard to understand how big they are, the scale of them, but you see how high up they seem to be sitting and how narrow they seem to be down at the waterline. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is because of this technology that we've come up with over the last century that has made it easier for ships, including cruise ships that people go on in a more recreational way, to maintain that height. So I used an app to run some calculations that basically used the Mungan-Emery model to run these calculations, but with different ships. Still using a solid cylinder as the moment of inertia, but linearly decreasing the metacentric height. So we're going to take into account, again, cargo sliding around. I looked up what the Nerubet had on board on typically, and it's 6 S-70B Seahawk helicopters, which are about 10,000 kilograms each, and potentially some AV-8S Matadors, which are about 6,500 K each. So if you had the runners on the deck of the Thai Royal Navy's Chakri Nerubet, and you had them running uphill against the tip every time, which, by the way, is called the Euler-Kromer integration, you would end up with an aircraft carrier that would be rocking back and forth. And if you loose the cargo and we make the assumption that the cargo is rolling freely and we don't have to overcome the inertia of all of this stuff and that it's going to help us, we would still need a lot of people. And in fact, I ran it through 3 different calculators and they each found slightly different results, but it would take thousands of people, from 8 to 15,000 human beings running back and forth. The helicopters would have to be rolling around perfectly to increase the mass as it went back and forth. And part of the problem is the deck just isn't long enough, not wide enough, long enough. Because if you have 8,000 people on a deck 143 meters long, not gonna work.
It's gonna be a tight fit.
The whole ship, sorry, I said 143 meters long. It's only 175 meters long. Oh. Still, you'd only have room for a few hundred people at 2 persons per meter, right? And you need an order of magnitude more and then double it just to get nearer the bottom of our calculation. So I thought maybe there's another way. I really wanted to solve Art's issue here. And so while I was looking into ship stuff, I was just flipping ships left and right over here. There is a thing in piracy specifically, and you do it today as well, but pirates did it a lot, called careening. Have you heard of careening before? Not the term we're careening around a corner, but this is where it comes from.
I'm going to say, is this the origin of the term careening?
Yeah, pirates? Also known as hove down. And it's the act of rotating or rolling a watercraft along the longitudinal axis to expose one of the vessel's lower hulls and keel, the bottommost bit of the watercraft, so that you can clean it. And the reason it's popular with pirates is because normally this would be done in dry dock. You would take it to a port, the port would lift the ship up or wait till tide went out and get the ship out of the water so that they could scrape the barnacles off, they could make sure there's not wood rot, they could repair things that had been damaged by hitting this or that. It's a normal part of ship maintenance, but pirates didn't have access to ports. And they didn't build their own, so they would go to a beach in a cove somewhere. Imagine, you have these pirates, and they're thinking about, okay, well, we need to clean the ship. We've just been in a battle. I don't know. We've just been in a battle. We've got to go. A
lot of barnacle buildup on
they've got the barnacles built up under the sea. Okay, so again, imagine you've got 2 planes, imaginary planes, not airplanes, 2 imaginary mathematical planes running fore and aft from the top of the mast down to the keel. So if a boat were being sliced in half like it was a Is It Cake episode, and then another running port and starboard at the waterline. So just picture that boat then floating on a plane. So you have this plus sign. The intersection of those planes is the point of flotation. It's under the horizontal draft. Now, if you tip the ship 45 degrees along that axis, Bob's your uncle, mate, you're going to end up tipping the ship over. And if you do it on purpose in the correct place, you are careening. And it's actually quite dangerous because once it hits that point of tip, gravity is in control.
Right.
And so if you have a pirate in the wrong place, at the wrong time, that ship is going to crush them. And this actually happened in the television show Black Sails, where they did show the careening process, and somebody did get killed and another person got their leg crushed. And it was just like, because they didn't do it correctly. And it's very difficult to do it correctly without procedures. So you would sail somewhere where a low tide is going out. You anchor in such a way that the ship is exposed and allowed to dry. And then you actually find a sandy bottomed cove, because the ship would sink into the mud. You tie the tops of the masts to trees and rocks on the shore. And then the reason it's hove down, because you're pulling the ship's top toward the shore, and then the ship's bottom hits the sandy cove and starts to tip over. It's pretty interesting stuff, actually. And I bring up the fact that you're tied to the top of the mast because I think similar to when you see people who don't know anything about airplanes. I said I wasn't going to mention airplanes, but apparently I lied. Similar to how people, when they ride on an airplane and they're like, the wings are moving, it's going to break off. It's like, no, you're riding on the wings. It's like watching the tires move on a car and being like, the tires are going to fly off. You're riding on the wings. A ship is riding on the sails and on the mast. Yes, it's going through the water. That's what's holding it up and from sinking. But the thing that's propelling it is the mast and the sails. And so it's strong enough to hold the entire mast of the ship. It has to be. And so like they pulled the mast toward the ground to tip it over. It doesn't break because it's already pulls the ship everywhere all the time.
Right.
So it's fine. So once you've done that with a 1,000-ton galleon, you can do that with just a team of people and the right anchor points. You can clean the ship, you can uncareen it, I don't know what that's actually called, I didn't look that up, and then you could put it back into the water, turn it around, and then do it again to the other side, clean the other side, and then again, Bob's your uncle, mate. So, with the Chakri Narubet, could we do a careening with a modern aircraft carrier? My question to you is, what would we attach it to?
Probably there's the island, the tower, the little...
Yeah, the forecastle or whatever, the forecastle. Yeah, that's sticking up. That would just be torn right off.
Yeah, that's not really meant to be structural.
It's not a structural thing. It's a building on top of the ship. It's not, the mast runs from the keel. It's attached to the keel of the ship all the way up into the air. So you're essentially pulling what looks, if you think of it like an anchor, that's what a ship looks like if you took all the stuff off of it. It's a mast right into the middle of the bottom. And so that works. It doesn't really work with a aircraft carrier. You'd also need steel cables, really big ones, like building bridge-sized ones. And you can't just tie it to a rock or a palm tree, because that would just be pulled out of the ground. So you need extremely, like the most powerful winches in the world, or 17 to 20,000 people all hauling and like winching at the same time. And if you tried to attach it to the deck of the ship, it would just rip the deck off. You tried to attach it to the forecastle, it would just pull that off. So it wouldn't really work, really. I didn't even look up what to do with the Nimitz, because you can't do it with the smallest aircraft carrier. And that's assuming we've turned off all of the stuff that's trying to keep the ship upright. Like, even if you do the math and say, like, okay, well, we've got these things keeping the ship upright, let's use those to our advantage. Nope. Still, they're just designed so much not to do it. Most people have seen ships tip over, though, right? Ships do tip. It does happen. Maybe you've heard of the Costa Concordia.
Oh, how could I forget?
January 2012.
Yes, the Italian cruise liner where the captain wanted to show off to his girlfriend and like sail by her house or something, and he hit a whole island and flipped it over on its side, and people died. Yeah,
32 people died. It capsized onto the starboard side, and it was the single most complex and I think expensive and just the biggest sea salvage operation in history to get it back upright so that they could get it somewhere and salvage it. It was wild. It was essentially a massive cruise ship, and it had a gash at the stern, which cut the power, but it took longer to careen than I thought, because essentially it careened, right? It just tipped over. It took like several hours to go from up to down because there was water in it as well. Let me just wrap up and say, Mung and Emery say in their discussion section in their paper about tipping a ship over, specifically galleons again, one is reminded of the Swedish galleon, the Vasa. The Vasa heeled and sank after barely beginning its maiden voyage. There is a Swedish museum housing the salvaged wreck, which distributes an illustrated 24-page brochure about the ship.
I've seen it.
Have you?
I've been
That's
there.
amazing.
I've been
I want to go
Stockholm
see it.
And I've seen this boat.
have you seen the 24-page brochure that they include in the exhibit? Because apparently it says in the brochure, quote, a stability test had been performed prior to the maiden voyage, where 30 men had run back and forth across the Vasa's deck when she was moored at the quay. The men had to stop after 3 runs well before the test could be completed. Otherwise, the ship would have capsized.
Yep.
So even if we're doubting that the 16 people in the documentary World's End could do it, they did it in real life with a real galleon that really sank with only 30 people and only 3 cycles.
That was more the hubris of the King of Sweden, right? Where he, if I remember correctly, I forget who Sweden was at war with, because all these different Nordic countries were all fighting each other and everybody in, Northern Europe and whatnot. So I don't remember specifically who they were like taking on. But the King of Sweden basically looked at the Vasa plans and was like, more cannons. More. More cannons. I want more cannons on it.
They just did the Star Wars.
Really, more. Yeah, more.
More.
So it was crazy top heavy, but nobody's going to tell the king no, So, all right, sir, we built the biggest, bestest. And then it made it just like into the Stockholm like harbor and immediately just sank, right? And just like the masts were sticking out of the water like for centuries. Like they only pulled it up like, I don't know, in the 1960s, something like this.
Wow.
And all this is to say, I'm just really glad that modern world leaders are not making crazy naval decisions about like a battleship or something that's going to be named after themselves, because that would be stupid.
Yeah, who would do that?
Nobody. That's a dumb thing to do. We've learned
never
not to do this.
That. We've learned this from the past, one might say. Or as Jack Sparrow might say, complications ensued, and were overcome.
All right, you want to learn where the pirate accent came from?
Yeah, I do, actually.
Okay.
Arr, where did pirate accent coming from?
One actor.
Oh, yeah. Even more amazing.
It's just Robert Newman. His portrayal of Long John Silver in Disney's 1950s film adaptation of Treasure Island is credited with establishing this accent. And he just basically took his West Country of England accent and just exaggerated it to Kingdom Come, and and just really hammed it up, and then that just became the pirate accent that we all know today.
I think it works so well because it's actually quite easy to mimic.
Yeah.
Right? If Jack Sparrow's accent is not easy for people to do. We can all try, but like his voice that he put on is quite difficult to mimic correctly or well enough that people know what you're doing. But like anybody can go, "Army matey," like anybody can do that. Yeah. That's easy enough.
Yeah, and it caught fire. Also, this is back from when we had much more like monoculture, right? Oh, there's a Disney movie about a pirate. Everybody's going to see it. And now everybody knows that's pirates.
Mad Men style. The next day at the water cooler, everyone is just like, "Arr, how you doing?" And everybody's like, "Oh, you saw it too."
You saw the new Disney film.
Sure you did.
Yep, that's it.
Anyway, well, let's take a break. I'm sorry, Art. There's not an amount of people that could flip the smallest aircraft carrier in the world well. But if you have a galleon, you could do it with your friends.
And 16 mates and some loose cannons.
Just a couple dozen mates.
You don't mind getting squashed, just like in the documentary Pirates of the Caribbean 2, Curse of the Black Pearl. That movie was my first date, by the way.
Wow, we're going to have to unpack that at the end of the show. But in a minute, let's do a quick break and come back and learn about your question. Hey friends, Trace here. I took this photo from my backyard.
Whoa! That's so cool.
I legit gasped at the picture. It's nuts. As many of you know, I host an astronomy show when I'm not doing this podcast. And the thing is, I don't actually own a telescope, or I didn't.
I don't host an astronomy show, but I also don't have a telescope, so it's more excusable.
Well, I have one now. I got the DWARF 3 by Dwarf Lab. It's a smart telescope, and I have to tell you, this thing is absolutely incredible. And if you want to pick one up, just go to link.that'sabsurdshow.com/dwarf.
You have been sharing images in our Slack channel for the podcast, and we are all collectively jealous.
Oh my God.
Every time there's another cool photo of stars.
Yeah. I am super into it. Every clear night, I'm like, oh, it's a clear night. I'm going to go get the telescope. I'm so excited. So,
yeah, you're like, I'm going to leave it on top of my car.
That's what I do.
You know, Trace, I was looking into, like, getting into astrophotography or just stargazing, and traditional telescopes were kind of making my head melt a little bit. Like, you've got to learn about azimuths and right ascension in order to find things, and then you take hundreds of dim images, and then you spend hours in some software on your desktop, and you combine them with like Python scripts and image editors.
And that's one of the things that drew me to this one specifically, because the Dwarf 3, it does all of that automatically. The first time I used it, I set it down on top of my car, like Julian said. I turned it on and I opened up their app. And all I had to do, it has a little atlas inside the app. You say Pleiades and it goes bzzz, and it calibrates and finds it. It can track all sorts of objects.
I don't think I'm like smart enough to be a traditional telescope haver, but since seeing what you've done with your Dwarf 3, I want it.
I took pictures of the Heart Nebula and the Monkey Head Nebula and the Orion Nebula and all sorts of different things. It really helps you make like a connection with the sky. And the key is the dual camera system, which makes it super versatile. It has a telephoto and it also has a wide angle.
The dual camera also makes it look like a friendly robot from an 80s movie. And I like that about it.
Yeah, it does. It really does look like a friendly robot.
I'm anthropomorphizing your telescope.
Also, doesn't just take astronomy photos. You can track birds or get, pictures of them. You can take panoramic photos. It'll stitch them together. It includes solar filters, so I did point it to the sun to look at sunspots, which was cool. It's Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, so you could, ostensibly sit inside on your couch and stargaze, which I admittedly did do. Go to link.that'sabsurdshow.com/dwarf, and the link tells them that we sent you. It's also down in the show notes. I'm really looking forward to my next trip so that I can take this with me. It's so small. It's only like the size of a hardcover book. It weighs about 3 pounds or a little more than a kilo.
So can I borrow it? Can you ship it to me?
I mean, I could definitely, we could just...
I want to have fun looking at the stars.
We got to just find a time we can meet up and we can all look at the stars, and then I'll just take it home again.
Okay. I mean, maybe I'll take it home. Maybe this time.
Just get your own, Julian, at link.that'sabsurdshow.com/dwarf.
That's a great idea, Trace.
Anyway, back to the show. I'm going to go take some more pictures of the stars because it's great. Welcome back to That's Absurd. Please elaborate. You're gonna have to swab the poop deck. That's the only other thing I know about ship stuff, because I was also a child at one point, and that's what every kid is like, haha, poop deck.
I don't know really what that is because it hasn't been explained to me in song form yet, so I couldn't.
Should I write another verse? I could try and write another verse.
The secret poop deck verse.
The secret, just for the fans.
Yeah, the bonus poop deck shanty.
So tell me your question.
So my question comes from Frandor, who asks, "Son, how much?"
What?
That's it. Okay, so Frandor says, let's say I wanted to buy the sun. How much would I have to pay? Who do I give the money to? What can I do with the sun once I am the owner?
Wow, that seems like a real supervillain thing to do.
It does. Nobody buys...
Very, Gru from, because he stole the moon, but, stealing the sun.
Sun's a bit more ambitious than the moon, I gotta say.
A bit more.
But yeah, nobody in history has had plans for the sun that are, beneficial for mankind, as far as I can tell, right? You've got Gru, you've got Mr. Burns' plan to block out the sun over Springfield. Others, I'm sure. Those are the two examples.
Both good examples.
Both good examples. Okay. So, Frandor, I'm going to trust you on this one that you're not a supervillain with nefarious plans. And I'm going to tell you how you can get your very own sun. First, let's talk about what the sun is, right?
Are you Otto Octavius? Do you have the power of the sun?
Oh. That's an idea.
Of my hand.
It probably would have been easier. No, we're going to assume there's just one sun in this neighborhood, the one that we can all see, but don't look at it directly.
No,
that one. Don't do that. Trust me, it's there. Okay. Yeah. And I think the way I want to approach this is by basically just breaking down what the sun is into its constituent elements, and then we'll figure out the market rate that those different elements are going for, right? So, the sun's composition is hydrogen, helium, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, silicon, magnesium, neon, iron, and sulfur. But in terms of atoms, hydrogen is, of course, the biggest portion of the sun, right? It makes up 91% of the sun.
Okay.
But it's also the lightest, simplest element, right? It's just one proton and one electron. And of course, in the sun, because it's under such high temperatures, it's actually a plasma. So it's just basically protons whizzing around. Hydrogen makes up 71% of the sun's mass. So even though it's 91% of the atoms, it's just 71% of the mass.
Got it.
Helium is 8.7% of the atoms in the sun, but it's 4 times heavier than hydrogen, right? It's 2 protons, 2 neutrons. And so it's a whopping 27% of the sun's mass.
Whoa, that's unexpected.
Yeah.
I thought that it would be I thought it was going to be like our atmosphere, where it was just like overwhelmingly I wouldn't have thought that.
It really shows you the disparity in mass between hydrogen and helium, right?
Yeah.
And finally, oxygen, it's about 1% of the mass of the sun. And then the rest of the elements that I listed, they all combine to make that leftover 1% or so that, that isn't hydrogen, helium, or oxygen. So I figured if I just go by the current market rate of the 3 big components, I'm 99% of the way there, baby. So, like just about everything, there's a market for hydrogen because it has some industrial applications. There's hydrogen fuel, like hydrogen fuel cells. But the biggest use of hydrogen is actually making ammonia, NH3.
Oh.
Yeah. And then that's used to make fertilizer and refrigerants.
Yeah.
Hydrogen also commonly used in petroleum refining in a process called hydrocracking. It's a process where hydrocarbon molecules are broken down into smaller molecules. And in the petroleum industry, hydrogen is used to remove contaminants like sulfur and to create methanol. There's also less common uses like food production. It's used to make saturated fats out of unsaturated fats, because unsaturated fats, it means it has more room for hydrogen. And so if you add more hydrogen, you can saturate it. And it's also used in glass making and electronics manufacturing. So according to a report I found from the consulting firm iMark, in the US, the price of hydrogen in the fourth quarter of 2025 was $1,085 per metric ton. US dollars, of course. Sounds like a lot.
It does sound like a lot, but it is a metric ton, I guess. It's a lot of it.
It is a lot of it. And it could be worse, because the going rate in the Netherlands at that same time was $2,900 per metric ton.
Whoa.
Yeah. And this is in a time when hydrogen prices are low. In the first quarter of 2025, prices ranged from $4,000 to $6,000 per metric ton. So now is the time to buy bulk hydrogen, people. Get on it. This is the moment. Buy low.
Okay. I'm going to go buy some right now. I don't know where I'm going to put it.
I was reading.
Maybe I'll just open it up and look at it.
I was reading the other day about people in Reddit forums like Wall Street Bets. They're all making these crazy financial decisions, based on very little and very poor information. And this one guy bought a bunch of oil when it was like negatively priced during COVID, if you remember that brief window. And then sold all of it except for like one portion of it. And it turned out to be worth like $27,000. And he was pretty stoked. But it turns out, like, based on the deal that he took, he, like, had to take delivery of $27,000 worth of crude oil himself.
No.
And
what did they do with it?
Could sue him. So, don't take financial advice from, like, Reddit or, like, podcasts telling you to buy bulk hydrogen right now. Just saying. Just throwing that out there. Okay. Helium, though. Definitely buy helium. Just kidding. Please don't. Helium, second lightest element, and crucially, it's a noble gas, so it's inert, which means it's got a really low boiling point. It's close to absolute zero, so liquid helium can create the lowest temperatures of any refrigerant. So, like the magnets at the Large Hadron Collider, those are cooled with liquid helium to get them as cold as possible so they can be superconducting magnets, right? Helium costs about $450 per cubic foot, which I had to do some conversions on, and that came out to $97 per kilogram, or to keep things consistent with our hydrogen from earlier, $97,000 per metric ton.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Again, the hydrogen was $1,085. Helium, $97,000 for the same
much more useful
mass. Yeah, I think this stems from, we've talked about it before, but how helium, the way that we can get it on Earth, just from like decaying radioactive elements.
Right.
And so it's difficult to come by. It's because it's inert and it, is so light. Otherwise, we'll just lose it out into space if we don't capture it from these decaying radioactive elements in ores in the Earth. So it's quite expensive as a result. And I think that might be what really gets us. And now finally, oxygen. Again, according to IMARC, bulk oxygen price in Q4 of 2025 was just $250 per metric ton. Pretty cheap.
Yeah, that's relatively... Okay, look, I could go get... I'm not helium
not
money,
helium
but
rich.
I'm oxygen. I got oxygen
rich,
money, baby.
Yeah.
I got oxygen rich.
I can afford some O2.
When someone says oxygen rich environment, is that like kind of a slag? It's just like, yo,
it's a bad neighborhood. These people could only afford to buy oxygen
rich environment. You know what I'm saying? Be like, yo, this place got helium.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that house.
Look at these balloons. That's how you know. We buy helium balloons to flaunt our wealth.
Wow. It all makes sense. It all makes sense.
It all goes back to the lawn theory of like, everything is just look at how much resources I can waste. Oh, I just made this piece of mylar float with an incredibly expensive element. Okay, so I have prices of my big three components. Now I just need the mass of the sun, plug in all the numbers, and I should get a pretty good ballpark estimate. I'm going to start with the cheap stuff, oxygen. At $250 per metric ton of O2, with the sun having a mass of 1.989 times 10 to the 30 kilograms, that's nonillion kilograms,
okay,
would cost me to buy the oxygen component of the sun at the current market rate about... $4.97 octillion.
Oh, wow.
So 497 with 25 zeros after it and a dollar sign in front.
I'm just covering my mouth. That's too much money.
That's a lot. And that's
too much.
That is
too much money.
By far the cheapest component.
Yeah.
Now, the next most expensive component, and we hinted at this, shouldn't really be a surprise, is actually the hydrogen. The bulk portion of the sun, because of that lower price per metric ton, it works out to a cost for Frandor of $1.53 nonillion, or 153 with 28 zeros after it.
There's just too many zeros on this. It's just too much to wrap your brain. The sun is too big. We learned this in our Lego episode.
Anytime the sun is too big. It's too big to really wrap your head around, okay?
It's too big.
Which brings us to helium. So at $97,000 per metric ton, the cost of all the helium in the sun would be $52.19 nonillion, which is 34 times more than the cost of the hydrogen in the sun, which is funny because like the hydrogen's really the important bit, it's kind of what makes the whole thing work. And it's generating more helium for you. So,
Free helium.
So
expensive.
It'd be cheaper to just buy the hydrogen component. So you add it all up, and the total price for the top three components, 99% of the mass of the sun, would be about $53.7 nonillion. Which means, in order to afford it, you would have to be a trillionaire a trillion times over, and then 50 million more times over than that. And you would be just short of being able to buy 99% of the sun, but what the heck? I'll throw in the last percent for free.
What? You've been a repeat customer.
Listen, you look like a trustworthy guy, Frandor, trying to buy the sun.
Welcome to Party City. What can I do for you? Oh, Frandor, you bought so many helium balloons. Yeah. You want to buy the sun? I'll throw in the last 1% for free.
Yeah, I'll get you a good price. Of course,
we'll get a good price on that. And then Party City went out of business.
Well, who do you give the money to, Frandor? Me, obviously. But really, nobody. There's a whole treaty about who owns space that we all agreed to back in 1967, the Outer Space Treaty. And we all agreed that actually everything in space, all the bodies in space, the moon, the other planets, nobody owns them. You can't own them. So...
Well, unless it's an asteroid, you want to mine it.
I'm imagining some sort of interdimensional beings, though, we might make contact with, and they have some sort of ownership claim to the sun.
Who has an ownership claim?
Some interdimensional beings. That's the only hypothetical scenario I can imagine.
Do you know any?
No, I haven't met any yet. But I think if you could sway
But you try and take that sun out of the way and see who shows up.
If you just put it out there that you've got a spare $53 nonillion to throw around, maybe you'll get their attention. And you can buy the sun.
You start broadcasting. Hey, I want to buy the sun.
Hey, buddy. I have just enough money.
Buddy.
Probably enough dollar bills to capsize an aircraft carrier, I would guess.
Oh,
easily,
wow.
Actually.
How many nonillion?
53 nonillion?
I mean, how much does this weigh? Come on, Google. Don't let me down.
There's no way.
$53 nonillion. Money weight calculator. Yeah, here we go. Am I going to break it? I think I'm going to break it. We want to do it in dollar bills or dollar coins?
Let's do paper bills.
One, two, how many zeros is it?
30.
Nonillion is 20. Okay, got it. I just did it. I think if I did it correctly, we might be off by 3 because I just pasted it. 5.3 e to the 31. So that's how much it is. In grams.
Kilograms?
In grams.
Okay.
In grams.
So divide by 1,000.
Metric tons, it's 5.3 E25.
I don't think an aircraft carrier is even like within several orders of magnitude.
It's gonna tip over.
It easily crushed an aircraft carrier under the weight of these dollar bills. Of course, if we use hundreds, that'll save us a little bit. I'll cut it down by a factor of 100. So maybe that's the way to go. And then what could you do with it? I mean, it's your son, Frandor. I'm not going to tell you, what you can and cannot do. But I do think you would have a claim to basically making everybody pay you for everything all the time. I think you could say that everything ultimately stems back from the energy that your property provided. And therefore, you get your beak wet on everything. So actually, as an investment, over 5 billion years might be a wise decision. So,
honestly, good investment.
Time to invest in bulk helium and hydrogen.
I mean, I'm just an oxygen kind of guy,
Oh, you're oxygen rich.
I'm more of an oxygen rich guy.
Friend poor, oxygen rich.
Yeah, that's it. Wow.
But then, of course, you have to deal with space pirates trying to steal your sun.
Arr, I'm here to buy the sun. I'm pretty sure that's what Hail Mary is about. I think that's what the new Hail Mary movie is about. Have you read the book?
I have read the book. It's very good.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to this episode of That's Absurd, Please Elaborate. The show is created, written, and produced by Julian Huguet.
And Trace Dominguez. And
also produced, edited by benevolent pirate Kyle Sisk.
Shantified by Kyle. Our associate producer is Sabrina Capello. Our music is thanks to Epidemic Sound.
Thank you to the listeners who submitted questions for this episode, Frandor and Art. If you want to submit a question, look down into the show notes for the form. You can also email us at hello@that'sabsurdshow.com. Visit our website, that'sabsurdshow.com/ask, or call us on the phone, 302-TAPE-SHOW, DAPESHO. She's kind of a pirate.
Yeah, she can be whatever she wants to be.
She can do
pirate,
whatever she wants.
Medieval Knight.
Love it. All her album covers are Muppets.
I did not know, but that's excellent.
She's great.
Special thanks to our absurd administrators over on our Patreon: Adam, Les, Austin, Jonathan, Dan, Sabrina the Brain, Hannah, Apothecary, Christina, Atomic Straw, and Brian. And congrats to our winning tape bingo card getters: Adam, always seems to get one, and oh boy, Bins, you know who you are. You know
what up, Bins?
Who you are. And there's a couple of them. Oh, they're so close. I feel it's almost like a Kalshi bet, though, if I just say, like, gripe time for somebody. Like, come on, that's cheating. Anyway, you're welcome, Tangle. Okay.
You just stopped mid-sentence. And of course, we have to thank all of you listening on Nebula and all of our patrons. Their patrons are the ones who keep this podcast going by directly supporting us. If you want to join the Patreon, just go to patreon.com/that'sabsurdshow. The perks are like you get to vote on future questions, you get little, messages from us, and of course, you get to
participate in bingo.
Yeah, don't forget the bingo.
Yeah,
which is great.
That's fun.
Nebula listeners get ad-free versions of the podcast, and they get to support us just by listening to the podcast like they would any other time. So thank you to both of those groups for keeping us going and giving us a little bit of fun so that we, too, can buy a metric ton of oxygen.
We're oxygen poor, but one day we aspire for helium. All right, Trace.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah. What do we always say about the poop deck at the end of every episode?
When you're on the ship, the port is left, and when you're off the ship, you're in the sea. But I never thought you'd need to know the length of beam ratio unless you're doing a podcast in the future. Now the beam is width, and the draft is depth underwater that your ship doth rest. But the really most important little thing about sailing is the flags atop the mast are blowing forwardly. Now the poop deck's high above the stern, but you don't go to if you want to learn. It's the place where the captain has a lot of eye tracking when you want to steer the ship across the sea. This'll be the last stanza of my shanty extravaganza. Note the keel is the bottom ridge running fore and aft, but the thing that's real confusing about our gallant little musing is displacement really means the mast don't be daft.
The poop deck's just high up?
It's just the back. It's French.
The back?
It's French for la poupe. It just means like the highest, most rearest part, because that's where they like. That's where the helm is and where they look. I learned. It's kind of like. Thought it was cooler than that. I mean, it's cool. It's where they, it's where they steal the ship. It's where they steer the ship and where the captain makes all the choices and stuff. When they're like pacing back and forth with the big wheel, and that's all the poop deck. But it just comes from the French, le poupe. It is more fun to say.
Well, we better go wrap this up because I gotta take a French.
I gotta go to the helm.
Oh, I gotta go steer the porcelain ship helm.
At our house, we just call it business meeting. I gotta go to a business meeting.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because sometimes you go to a business meeting and then, you log in and nobody else logs in, and that happens sometimes, and then or sometimes it's an international business meeting. It's a really long one. It's really important.
I find when I travel internationally, the first day or so, I have to have, big business meeting.
Oh, really? Some people travel, they travel and then they don't have any business meetings.
Well,
thanks for listening to That's Absurd. Please elaborate. I hope that we earned our stripes today with the name.
As we always say at the end of every episode, lip boop.
Lip boop.